Hi, welcome to another edition of More Than Just Storytellers. Today, we spoke with Glenn Cotter about his experiences working as a peer worker and combining his lived experience with supporting others who are going through similar experiences. And he spoke a lot about the challenges of doing work when you're actively suicidal in the space. And it's a conversation that we don't really have. How can we best support people and integrate people who are currently living through their experiences in suicide prevention work? But I'll leave it up to him to tell us how we best do that. I hope you enjoy his chat. It was really great to talk to him. And take it away, Glenn.
Because it is that we're more than just our story. Um, we look at celebrities, we look at public figures, and we see that little bit of them, but we don't see the rest of them. Um, and there's so much more than that 5 minutes that you see of people. And I've learned that with the people I've worked with over the last 4 years. I had the pleasure of meeting that. There's some astounding stories in there. I work with somebody who is as ordinary as you like, and I love her to death. Well, but once you actually start to talk to her, she's got work hanging in the Australian National Gallery for Art. She's got work here and there, and her husband's an acclaimed neurosurgeon, or was, but gave it away so he could concentrate on some art projects. So we're more than just that person. Um, okay, I'm a lived experience peer worker. I'm a father of two children. I'm a grandfather of four daughters. I'm this, I'm that, or the other, but that's more than what people see. So, I'm my wife and I are passionate motorcyclists. I've run events over the years that have raised, I don't know, an event that ran for 9 years every year that raised probably $250,000 in the community and put nearly $100,000 into children's wards across the hospitals down here. We've, it's more than what we appear to be. So the chance to actually sit and have conversations and learn more about people rather than just, have that 5 minute presentation about a particular subject. And that's where we, are battling with the fact that, oh, you're a lived experience peer worker. You're a survivor of suicide. That's what you are. But no, we're far more than that. And it's every other aspect of our life that allows us to do that. I've got a background in event management. I've got a background in hospitality, background in public speaking with different other organisations I've worked with. I've got an ability to connect through community and run events that bring community together, and I guess an ability to go out and talk to people and not be afraid to go and talk to different people. And it doesn't matter to me whether I'm talking with somebody in the acute unit down community mental health, or whether I'm sitting down talking with a federal minister, or whether I'm talking with a shed full of volunteer fireys or whatever else. I mean, we have the same conversations. We're all human. We all struggle the same way, whether we admit it or not. I always laugh about the fact that I say, look, I'm old enough and ugly enough. I've got enough friends. I don't need to actually try to have more. If people can relate to me and like me, that's good for them. I'm not out trying to seek approval. So I guess that comes over in a genuine approach. I've always say to people that I'm working with, when we'll ask a question and they will give me an answer that I know is not quite right, I've got to be honest. I'll say to them, look, don't bullshit a bullshitter. Tell me what's going on. So I think that for me, it's just those skills. And look, I've spent many years coaching junior sport and been around that sort of development of young people. And to me, that's where we make our differences, is that we we need to be doing more work in the prevention side of things. In a perfect world, I wouldn't have a job because we'd be getting people better first. We'd be getting them before they broke. If someone's coming to me, they've already broken or the system's already let them down. So in a perfect world, I wouldn't have a job. We'd be doing more of this. We'd be talking more. We'd be speaking more about asking for help. We'd be speaking more about preventative measures, not post-vention support. So for me, for skills, I think it's just a matter of being prepared to go out and put yourself out there and not be afraid of what people think. Yeah, if people get something out of it, they do. But and I've been on different advisory panels. I've worked for years as operations managers in different organisations, so I can see, the top of it as well as the bottom of it. So, yeah, I think it's a fairly rounded background. Good question. I'm very fortunate. I was employed by Great Pacific Health as a lived experience peer worker. That was specifically why I was employed. And I work in a program called Next Steps. And it's a peer-driven program, which is a real plus for us. And I work specifically with people who have presented an ED with either an attempt or with suicidal ideation or suicidal crisis. And from that, with my experiences, lived experience, we sit down over a 12-week period and just work on starting to help that person realise that they are still whole, they are still valuable. There's a journey that we can sit down and start, and we can start to rebuild. And a lot of it is helping them understand the fact that there's no shame in where they are. The simple strength of putting their hand up and asking for help is massive, and we don't give people enough credit for that. We talk about all these campaigns about, it's not weak to speak, ask for help, stand up, speak up. And yet there's still so much stigma around, especially around men, to put their hand up and ask for help. So it's reminding people that first action is such a strong, courageous thing to do. The fact that they've asked for help shows such a strength, and determinedness to actually start to find themselves again. And it can be a really simple process of just reminding someone that they've got a lot to give. They've been down a hole. And as lived experience, we've been down that hole. I've been down that hole. But it wasn't the end of me. I was lucky. I put my hand up and found help. But I've been able to, in society's eyes, be valuable again. I've been able to work through it, help people understand where they're going. I do public speaking. I help them realise that they can get back into their life, or they can maybe take it as a chance to find something new. Maybe what they were doing wasn't what they wanted to do, but what they felt they needed to do, which is sometimes the problem in itself. We're still that busy trying to be what society wants us to be, that we don't actually sit and look at what we'd like to do. So reminding people at times that they've got the ability to be, I always tell them they've got the chance now to be a little bit selfish and do what they want to do and figure out what they like to do, and take time with themselves. The thing I love with my job is that I get the chance to be able to sit down with people outside of an office. We can go and walk down the beach and we can talk while we walk along the beach. We can sit in the local coffee shop and have coffee, or we can go and sit in the local park and have lunch and have coffee. So we meet where it's comfortable to sit and talk to you, rather than you have to come into our office and sit in that clinical space, and just empower people to be part of their own recovery rather than being told what to do. And our program's very, very voluntary, and we state that from the word go. If you're not happy with it, you can leave it at any point in time. It's all about what you want and how much you want to put in it. So we're just along for the ride, and that's a roller coaster. You sit and we're incredibly privileged to sit with some of the people we do, hear some amazing stories of resilience, and hear some heartbreaking stories of trauma and what they've gone through. And I think the hardest part at times is to sit there and hold that space, because we always want to try and fix things. As humans, we're really good at trying to fix things. Hardest part for a lot of us is to sit and just listen. And once we understand that, we realise the value of that, and have conversations with people who are incredibly fragile and incredibly raw, but are prepared to give you such amazing trust that we really are privileged to sit down with these amazing people, hear their stories, hear about their strength, their determination, their just strength of will to want to get better, and move forward. And for me, that's why I love what I do, because we just get to share some of the most amazing conversations and meet amazing people, and get the chance to be part of their life in doing that. It's hard when people leave our program at times, and I've just seen one move away on the weekend to a better life, but you become part of these people's lives, and you sort of, it's like watching a friend move away. So as opposed to a clinician, I guess, who ticks a box and says, right, next case. And we live that with our clients. It really is it's a privilege to be part of it. That experience for me was a long one. I had a fairly traumatic. I had a mental health period in sort of 2013 where I was sort of pushed into an early retirement because of a mental health episode, and then struggled for a while to feel that I was actually contributing to the community. 2015, I got involved with the local suicide prevention network down here and spent a couple of years as co-chair of that, whilst battling with my own episodes and my own increasing suicidality. So I was active in community talking about suicide prevention and working that way, but was continually being told again that you're a really, really valuable volunteer, but there's no work for you. And to a point, I owe the opportunity to work in the field to Headspace. Even though I'm too old to be a Headspace counsellor, I've been told that. But with Headspace opening up their offices down here, Grand Pacific Health was expanding, and they were looking for a lived experience peer worker. And I was told by a friend that I'd been doing a lot of voluntary work through to apply for that. So I did apply for that, and didn't get the job, ironically. But then the person they did offer it to turned the job down. And so I was second choice, runner up. But that's good. And it worked out well for me. It was only the 2 days a week at that point, which was all, I said it was all I needed, but it was probably all I could handle. I'm going to be honest about it. So I started that in 2018, and it's been a real ride since then. I watched the program change a lot. I've watched a lot of different people come in and out of the program. As I said, it's been an absolute joy. It's been heartbreaking. It's all of those things in the one day, but it's given me an opportunity at that point to actually see what I could contribute. Around the same point in time, I was approached to look at becoming an ambassador with Are You OK?, which I have done, and again since 2018. So I guess 2018 was a real turning point for me. It was my lowest point, but it let me see where I was and then how to step forward. And still, I've had amazing opportunities to speak at conferences, to present as keynote speaker at webinars. I've been able to travel around up and down the coast, speaking to different groups, being involved with media with different organisations, and giving me an opportunity to get out and tell stories, and share my experience in the fact that for as low as we feel, we can still be, valuable and positive in our own life, which I think is more important than being positive and valuable into a community. Is we need to feel that we're, a valuable resource in our own life, because too often when we're in that period of suicidality, is we don't feel that we're of worth to anybody. So a big thing is to remind ourselves that we are worthy of ourselves. We don't have to be worthy of society. We need to feel worthy for ourselves. And I've been fortunate that this has given me opportunities to go and do that. And it's what gets me out of bed every day. We work in a field where our qualification is our lived experience, and it's getting it recognised by that, hierarchical table above us, that clinicians, psychologists, psychiatrists, their qualification is their uni, their degrees, their diplomas. Our qualification is our life. And, I'm carrying 45 years plus of experience around with me, that I've lived on the street, I've done, and I've learned from stupid things we've done over the years, or from different things we've been involved with. But the fact that we have that lived experience means that when you sit down with somebody who's, just been discharged from community mental health after attempts or severe suicidality, we can actually sit down and go, we know how you're feeling, as opposed to somebody who's only got academic qualification, who really can't get it or tries to explain it away. Because sometimes, you can't explain how you're feeling, but you know how you're feeling, but you can't put it into words. So for somebody to sit beside you, not across a desk, but beside you on a lounge or whatever, and just say, look, mate, I get it. This is how it felt for me. It may not be how it feels for you, but it's how it felt for me. So I get that feeling. And to me, there's too much clinical importance on explaining. How do you ask somebody to explain why they're feeling happy today? On a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you feeling? I'm happy. Why? I don't know. I just am. Because I'm feeling better than what I was yesterday when I wanted to die. So there's too much importance on research and trying to figure out why somebody feels that way. We know ourselves that a lot of the time we can't explain it. We just feel it. So it's just, help somebody realise that it's just okay to feel that way. Some days are crap. Some days are really good. And there's no clinical reasoning as to why they are, crap or good. And you can't rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. Why do you feel this way? Because I could be feeling really good today, but compared to somebody else, I'm having a bad day. Or I'm just being more honest with myself than what they are. So I think the importance of the lived experience in suicide post-pension support and the suicide prevention support is that we're more prepared to sit and have an honest conversation, and not feel threatened by the fact that if I admit that I'm struggling or admit that I've had suicidality, I'm not going to be, tucked away in a corner and not be able to continue to work the way I want to work. That's my qualification. That's why I was employed, because I've lived experience. The more we can have this genuine, honest conversation and be able to say to someone, especially the men and the young men at the moment, that we tried so hard to reach, that, I'm no great role model. I'm an ex-truck driver, ex-bouncer, ex-whatever, but I had to put my hand up and ask for help. I'm no less of a man because I did it. It took an incredible amount of strength. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, just to put my hand up and say, I need help. But it's helped me realise that things weren't good and I'm the one that can change it. And I'm the one that's got the power to change it. So I guess it's just reminding people that they're part of they're the major part of their own recovery, and they can do it. You can do it yourself. You don't need to be told by somebody what you need to do. Yeah, because we're all precious. It doesn't matter who we are. Every life out there is precious, and every person we sit and talk to, every person that we can reach doing this and having this conversation, that suddenly sits here and goes, yeah, I get it. I finally get what's been going around in my head. That's where we hit gold. We can't measure where we have an input on someone's life. They're the only ones that can. We can just kid ourselves sometimes that we have been. I think the greatest thing that I try and get out to people is that, be honest with yourself. It was interesting that during COVID and the lockdown periods, and we were lucky down here because I live on a reasonable amount of land and we live in a sort of a regional area, so lockdown wasn't as traumatic as what it was in major areas. I didn't lose any work because I'm regarded as an essential service. But one thing I did learn was that a lot of the community things I was doing, I suddenly couldn't do, and had to spend some time at home with my own company. And my wife and I realised how much work we'd been doing for other people and how much work we hadn't been doing for ourselves. And in doing that, we talked about the fact we just had a random conversation, and then I said, look, I need to go out and spend more time in the gardens. And my wife said, you need to go and do. I found I was almost having to give myself permission to not be doing anything. And she said, look, Aaron, at the end of the day, you've just got to do something that makes you happy. And I honestly had to sit there and think, and I sat there and I honestly turned around and said, I really don't remember the last time I was happy, because we put so much pressure on ourselves to be doing things for other people or to be, achieving something that really in the long term means nothing. We spend so much time trying to justify our existence to people who at the end of the day have no influence over our life. And I had to sit down and actually take stock at what I was doing and realise that I was allowed to actually spend time with myself and be happy. And it's been a long, long time since I've done that. And I'm getting better at it. So, and a lot of that comes, and, I'll be honest here, and I'll go back to 2015, where at a period of time for me where I was quite suicidal. And I'll be really blunt with that, was that I was even to the point where I had a plan. I'd even figured out how it would happen. So it was, for want of the better term, it was foolproof. But then I actually had I was involved in a motor vehicle accident, a serious one. And I actually, the result of those injuries, I died 3 times on the operating table. Spent 8 days in a coma. So effectively I was dead for 10 minutes. And the recovery out of that made me realise just how much I would have lost and just how many people actually cared. Because we know that we're in that space where we're in that tunnel. We can't see it. We don't get it. So for me, I've had a really genuine opportunity to have a good look at the fact that what I was thinking may have been, for me at that point in time, the only answer, but it wasn't the best one. Um, so I'm blessed in the fact that I've had a chance to come back and still talk to people about where I was and what I was thinking and what that could have done. And the old adage of every day above ground's a good one. It is. Celebrate the little things. Do the little happy dance when something goes right. And just remember that the only people that really matter is yourself and your loved ones. What I might down the road thinks about you doesn't really matter. As long as you can look at yourself in the mirror, not scare yourself, which I do, but just have a look at yourself in the mirror and be able to say, yeah, I'm reasonably happy where I am. And celebrate your life, not for the achievements, not for, accolades or recognition, but just because you're living it. And that to me, I've become more aware of it and more grateful for it. It is so important that we do remember that there's a whole person. And I think that's a big thing in what we've talked about through work at the present point too, and we're having conversations with clinicians about how we actually treat the person in a holistic way and treat the whole person, rather than what appears to be the driver of the suicidality, that it could be so many other things. But we need to actually learn about the person, not just the problem. And the more we do that, the more we learn about the person. And look, I've spent an hour and a half walking down the beach with a person while we walked their dog, and I don't think we discussed their suicidality once. We just talked crap about their life. But that enabled me to learn far more about it than what asking, spending a quarter of an hour talking about that specific problem was ever going to do. Because you can learn more about what may have led to these things. And again, it's for the public to understand that it's not just that little episode that's caused a problem. It could be ongoing trauma. It could be intergenerational trauma. It could be, PTSD. We're getting a rising number of first responders and so forth starting to come through the system again, because especially over the last couple of years, it's been one disaster after another. I've sat with first responders down here, with volunteer fireys, and talk about things that happened down through here during the bushfire period that it's just wrong. The stuff that these guys went through and seen and experienced is just unbelievable. And yet they're just expected to continue on and just keep going. And the majority of them are volunteers. So they don't deal with it because, well, we just needed to do it. It's the same with fireys and with ambulance guys and police and that. It's just builds and builds. So we've got to get better at talking to people and getting people to talk and let them know they can talk, and they can cry. And oh God, I've sat in the consult room a number of times after I've finished working with somebody and they've left, and I've just sat in the room and just just cried from what I've just sat and listened to. And then you get up and you shake yourself off and you go and do it again. And in this game, I sometimes I can have to do that 4 or 5 times a day. And that's killer. Sometimes you've got clients that are just such a pleasure to work with, and sometimes you've got clients that are hard work, and you balance them out. But as I said before, we don't do it for the money. We don't do it for the recognition. We do it because we actually care. And that's the motivation, is to let people know that at the end of the day, there's actually people out there who care. And I'll do it because they care, not because of any other reason. I'd still do this if I wasn't getting, but I do it even though I'm not getting paid for it, because we get the value in seeing somebody. When you get a comment from someone that you've worked with, or you run into them 12 months later, they say, "Look, you don't realise, but without work, without the time we spent together, I doubt I'd be alive today." If you're in it for the right reason, I don't even know how you respond to that. I can't respond to that. I can't view that I was that important. And we just don't realise that just being nice to somebody, just showing someone you care, that makes the difference. That could be the thing that changes their life that day. We don't give that enough credit. It doesn't have to be some great breakthrough moment. It could just be the fact that somebody says, "Are you all right?" That actually get somebody to actually sit there and think, "Well, mate, actually, no, I'm not." I remember asking somebody that quite innocently, and it was a woman behind the deli counter in the local supermarket, and she just looked sad. And I said to her, "Are you all right?" And she looked at me and she sort of said, what are you asking me?" And I said, "Are you all right?" I said, "Because she's honestly, you don't look it." And she sat there, she stood there for a minute, and she put her down, she said, and she thought about it. She said, "Yeah." She said, "Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm all right, but thank you for asking." And she actually stood a little bit taller after that. And I know that sounds silly, but somebody actually cared. And we don't give that enough credit. We really don't. The simple act of just being nice to somebody is, there's no value under it. There really isn't.
So thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed Glenn's talk about his lived experience and how he brings all of his other skills in stakeholder engagement and operations management and all of the other things that he brings to his work in suicide prevention. And I hope it's shown you that, hey, we are more than just our sad stories of lived experience, and we make a huge contribution to the suicide prevention space. As usual, do what YouTubers do: like, comment, subscribe. We like having conversations about this topic, and get in touch if you want to know more about the work that we do or want to contribute in any way that you feel you would like to. As always, take care of yourself and those around you, and we hope to see you next time.